top of my screen. So when we are ready to begin, we will stay with our similar format that we normally have at our board meetings. For the flag salute, I did have my 11-year-old give me a beautiful image. So
great.
For the flag salute, if you don't mind, and we can all face our computers.
Right.
So I'm going to go back and forth. I apologize. My tabs are somewhat open. You'll all see me. In the event we do have to go to closed session, I will ask that the board members leave this call. I will invite you. I will send you an alternative invitation to another meeting, because we don't want the public who has joined to be able to leave and then bring them back. So we would leave the public here. We would go into a second call, only the board members that I would send a separate invite for. I have not do so because I am not sure we need closed session. But if we need to do that, we will go accordingly. So if there are no questions regarding the context of this type of call and the importance of this meeting, I would ask that I probably think that we turn this over to the president, Mr. Choi. Are we okay with that?
Yes, sir. Ms. Jane, you want to call?
I can do it. Ms. Montemiro, are you on? I did not.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Ms. Montemiro is here, so we are all set, Ms. Jang.
Okay, so I would like to call for a meeting, our special meeting on April 29th, 2020. I would like to have a flag salute. Actually, would you please lead us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, one nation, under God, liberty and justice
For all.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Stephanie Jang,
Yes.
Thomas Matarazzo,
Here.
Jason Kim. Jason? Yes, no?
The record.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, Jason. Rebecca Lee,
Yes.
John Matisich,
Yes.
Yoon Min? No?
Yoon is present. Her computer is muted. Yoon, can
Okay,
you
no
unmute?
problem. All right,
1 second, Ms. Montemiro.
sure.
Can you unmute your computer, please? It would be near the bottom of the screen.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay, Barnabas Wu,
Here.
Jeffrey Wu,
Here.
Timothy Yang,
Yeah.
Dr. Cirillo,
Here.
Angela Spizewski, here, Ben Choi.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, the statement of a presiding officer in compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, I hereby state that adequate notice of this special meeting has been provided to the public by a written notice dated April 24th, 2020. The meeting notice has been posted on bulletin boards located inside each school building in the Board of Education office, and communicated to at least one of the board designated newspapers, filed with the borough clerk of Palisades Park. All right, and then the next agenda is 2020 and 2021 school budget.
Thank you, Ms. Jang. So before you, and again, on my screen, everyone can just bear with us for a few minutes. We will go through the slides. I give Angela a ton of credit for assisting in compiling this information. That is all public knowledge. About a month ago, we had our regular board meeting for the submission of the tentative budget to the County Office of Education. This hearing will discuss the budget, of course. We'll have a portion for discussion, and will require a vote from the Board of Education. There are some steps. If an approved budget would be submitted to our website for the public within 48 hours as a user-friendly budget. The tax levy certification would be sent to the Borough for processing, and we would, of course, be filing an approved budget with the Department of Education with the proper tax levy certification to the Bergen County Tax Board. In the event the board budget was not approved or adopted, we would have to request from the county superintendent and the county business official to reopen the budget software in the state homeroom website. We would have to provide an extract of any specific items discussed at the budget hearing, which is this session this evening. County superintendent and the county business administrator, we would adopt the revised budget at a special meeting on or before May 14th to adopt the revised budget. We do not have to re-advertise the revised budget. Any revenue or appropriation changes not discussed specifically and in detail at the public hearing shall not be included. So notes in bold, but the importance is if we do not discuss where these changes will be tonight, we cannot make those changes in a potential revised budget. At that point, we would send a tax levy certification to the borough for processing and then file an approved budget with the Department of Education with the proper tax levy certifications and Bergen County Tax Board by May 19th. So clearly there are many challenges that many school districts are facing. The 2% cap is one that every school district has been facing for some time now. Salary and health benefit increases, our curriculum revisions for the upcoming adoption of any and all new standards, the increasing cost of special education and out-of-district placements, while increasing student population, maintaining and improving our much-needed school facilities, and of course, maintaining and expanding any and all academic programs and athletic and extracurricular activities for our students. These are a few slides that Ms. Spazewski will go over. Of course, at the conclusion of this, there will be a portion for question and answers. Angela?
Thank you, Dr. Cirillo. So the slide that everybody can see right now, that is the tentative budget as it was adopted at the March 18th meeting. And I can walk you through the columns that we see. The first column, the pre-budget tax levy, we begin with our minimum tax levy, which is our, thank you, Joe, which is our current tax levy this year for 1920. The district, all districts actually this year, if they chose to pursue and met certain qualifications and changes in enrollment, were eligible to take an enrollment adjustment, which would increase our tax levy. For Palisades Park, for our school district, we were able to take, if we so chose, an enrollment adjustment of $1,286,784, which would get us to a pre-budget tax levy of $25,171,912. 2% on that would be $25,675,350. The middle column is the tentative budget that was approved on March 18th, with the minimum tax levy the same for 1920, the $23,885,000. What you will see is the enrollment adjustment that was factored into the budget was $813,000, which got us to the $24,698,000. 2% on that, the $25,192,000. The enrollment adjustment in the third column is the $473,000 that the district was not, or we were not going to pursue, meaning we, in going through and balancing our budget and in addressing a lot of those challenges that were in the previous slide that Dr. Cirillo spoke to, the $813,000 is what would help us meet and sustain what we currently have. So this was the board resolution. This breaks through, shows the first column, the budgeted revenues, what our revenue would be, including the enrollment adjustment. The local tax levy would be $25,308,000. The next couple of slides, what we thought would be very helpful for everyone to see, the board especially, we took the tentative budget, the revenue portion, and we broke the budget down in the various buckets. So as always, and we're all familiar with this, the property tax levy is the biggest chunk of our revenue. It represents almost 86% of our revenue, followed by the state aid of $2,135,000 and federal aid of $1,191,000. Together, that aid is just under 12%. It's about 11.5%. So those are our biggest chunks of revenue. The next slide shows the breakdown of the budget, and these are the current expenses, excluding any special expense of what we call our Fund 20 title accounts. So the current expenses, the largest pieces here, again, we're familiar with this. It's what we've spoken to in prior years. The biggest chunk of our expenses are salaries and stipends and employee benefits. It's our personnel, it's our people. And that represents approximately 82% of all of our expenses. And we included in there also, you'll see some of the other bigger buckets of expenses that the district faces every year.
At this point, before we go to Q&A, I think it's imperative of us, because of the time period we are living, and because, of course, with this pandemic and the virus that has brought much attention to not just our community, but, you know, our big world. There was a slide there early on that this budget was not need to take place, and what type of budget hearing would be required. Angela and I took the liberty to treat this forum as a budget hearing as well, because we would need to have one. So with that being said, in the event that the budget we just detailed is not approved this evening for any reason whatsoever, I would tell you that if you can bear with us for 4 additional slides, it would do us much justice. So clearly, I will go over the first one or two, and then Angela can take it. But here is our budget with the enrollment adjustment of $813,040, which the state has permitted for the first time this year. Here is what the budget would look like without that money. So clearly, your bottom line would be substantially lower, and lower by your 813 plus the 2% that is compounded on top of that 813. Angela, you want to read to this one?
Sure, Dr. Cirillo. So this would be the proposed budget. If the enrollment adjustment is something that was not going to be part of our budget, if we were going to take that out, this is what the tax levy would look like. This is what the resolution would be, our final for the approved budget. As you had said, if the budget's not approved as it stands right now, like the tentative budget with the enrollment adjustment, we would have to have a special meeting. This is what that resolution would look like. And the difference is just a matter of pulling out that enrollment adjustment of $813,000. And you brought up a good point that I just would like to reiterate, that this enrollment adjustment is something that was available this year. It's not something that the state puts out every year that schools can take advantage of. And we were lucky in that respect to have that, because we do have a lot of needs in our district. We're all familiar with the challenges. So at this point, I don't know, Dr. Cirillo, if you want to open it back up to the board to talk about the with and without.
If I may, Angela, if I could do this before we go to Q&A. So clearly, I think this is imperative to look at because it's required that we do this. So in the event of the enrollment adjustment of 813 plus the 2%, and 2% is the new total, not the tax levy total. So it would be the new total, 16,261 would be if the 813 was approved.
We can't hear.
With that being said, we have to explain now, before it went back to county superintendent and county business administrator, where those proposed cuts would be. And it's imperative that we discuss that this evening without speaking to any names or position. Clearly, the savings of $829,300 is something that we would have to consider tonight, and the breakdown would be in both instruction and support services.
So again, Dr. Cirillo, if you can just go back to the slide right before this, just so that or the one right after, that has the instruction, the support services.
Yep.
So the enrollment adjustment, we all agree, yes, it is going to increase the tax levy. It is revenue that is much needed by the district, but we do understand the current circumstances, of course. But to be completely honest here, we would have to, if we do not take that enrollment adjustment, we're going to lose $829,000 of revenue, which needs to be offset. We will need to balance the budget somehow. So right here on this slide, what we're looking at are proposed changes. And certainly we should discuss those changes and any other suggestions that the board might have. But really, if we think back to one of the earlier slides that shows where the bulk of our expenses are, where does our budget go? It goes to our people. The next slide that Dr. Cirillo have flipped through, this just breaks down these 4 budget lines that you see here, the proposed changes in the current expenses. They roll up into instruction and support services in a few different ways. So this was just a little slightly more detailed breakdown. Again, proposed, but we needed to explain to you and show to you how that enrollment adjustment impacts our overall budget.
So I'm going to leave this screen at this point. I'm going to go back to the first budget presentation screen with the Q&A. I don't need to necessarily pull that up, but if there's any questions or answers, questions really from the board members at this point, I will do my very best, as I'm sure Angela will, so you know. And again, we are going to, and I'm flipping back to our agenda, we will discuss it now. It does fall under committee reports, and it is within finance. So I'll probably ask Mr. Choi that there probably would be 2 separate resolutions. Is that right?
Dr. Cirillo, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing that question.
I'm sorry. So my question was, being that the budget is under the finance report, I would probably ask the board to consider 2 separate resolutions, one of all the finance matters and one of the budget specifically to that subject.
That is fine.
Thank you. So at this point, if there are any questions from the board regarding the budget.
Yes, Dr. Cirillo.
Okay.
John Madison.
Go ahead, John.
What would actually the total budget be, please? The final total amount, what would it be? Because at the last meeting, I read 20.
Yeah,
I read 29. I don't see the screen, so can you tell me the bottom?
So John, the bottom line number that you are asking is the same as it was on March 18th that went to the county office. And that
So
number,
the budget was 29,424, 29,424,203,
that is correct.
and the tax levy will be 25,308,475. That's with the additional 813,040.
Yes, sir. It would actually, it changes a little bit. It's 25,192,130, but your bottom line would be 29,424,203.
Okay.
That is what is being voted on this evening, John. That is what was approved at the county level.
Okay, very good, thank you.
The tax levy would be the 25, and I'm flipping back to presentation here. The tax levy, Joe, with the enrollment adjustment would be the 25,308,000. 25,192 plus what you see, the
Yes.
debt service of 116,000, just so
That's
that, John,
Madison.
I just want to clarify that for Mr. Madison.
Right, I see it, yes, that's, you're
Okay.
right, general fund,
John,
I
nothing-
see it.
Very good.
Nothing has changed since we had our committee meeting with Ms. Jang present and Mr. Choi.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
You're welcome.
I have a question. This is Dr. Matarazzo.
Yes,
I
sir.
apologize for not being at the March meeting, but to some medical reasons, I couldn't be there. I did ask for the copy of the budget in detail of 62 pages, and I got it late this morning, which I appreciate, but I didn't get a chance to scrutinize it as I would have if I had it previous. But my question based on the slide presentation, number one, I know it says curriculum revision for the upcoming adoption of the new standards. How many new ones do we have for next year, and what are they in?
So it's not necessarily only new, it's updates and revisions. Tom, we also are looking at a new, we were looking at a program
Sorry, you're
for
breaking up.
schools. I'm sorry, so the format clearly is not the best, but, so we have met with our curriculum areas. I know Mr. Yang definitely has been a part of those meetings. This started as early as September. We are clearly on the heels of just being CUSAC'd, and I think it's imperative that changes are made while they're in the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, I was just asking what specific ones. I wasn't.
So one major one is a reading program at both the Early Childhood Center and Lindbergh Elementary School. This also is there's a major need to upgrade our instructional materials in the high school, a mathematics program. We know math has not been one of our stronger points in the district, and we are trying to make a major focus be mathematics. We've had professional development that has been so much needed and appreciated by our employees. So there's a lot more pieces that we have to obviously address.
Okay, the next one is, I'm sorry to take up the time, but out of district placements, are there more next year than we do this year?
Yes, there's potentially, without going into details because of the confidential nature, on my desk are potentially 3 additional out-of-district placements. And clearly, we did not anticipate 3 going out. There's one case that Mr. Choi has been much involved in with legal matters. So it's very likely they may go out if we don't have.
They may, but we're not sure yet. Okay. Maintaining and improving facilities. Now, I know that about a year ago, we had met a committee about the referendum. We have that referendum still in existence, is it not? I haven't heard a word about it.
So I would say clearly and, understandably, due to the virus and the extent of the effect it has had on not just our community, but the world, I've had 0 communication regarding the referendum in the past month. I think our attention has clearly been where it should be. But with that being said, we are moving forward. In our March meeting, we did approve a company to be hired to fix the facade of Lindbergh Elementary School. Actually, if the referendum doesn't pass as it did not in November, we have to continue to move our district forward. And if it means we're going to have to do it a bit at a time, sure, that's the way we're going to go about it.
So are we still putting that referendum up in, I guess, July 7th would be the election?
I don't know that we are putting it up in July. The last meetings were in the mayor's office. I think Mr. Kim, I think Ms. Jang, Mr. Yang may have been there.
I was there.
Excuse me, so you were there. That was the last we spoke of that.
Okay. And also the maintaining and expanding of academic programs, athletics, and extracurricular. New athletic, what new extracurricular? Academic, I think you answered by the reading and the math programs. What new athletic and extracurricular activities?
So I'm constantly getting requests, and in all fairness, when we have the success we've garnered in, girls swimming, for example, in the event the state doesn't allow us to necessarily co-op any longer because we're becoming a dynasty, and that's the truth.
Well, we are doing things with Richfield, Leonia.
Well, we're doing nothing with Richfield athletically. We're doing only with Leonia. We're only co-oping with Leonia. But the point is, when the state has passed different regulations regarding athletics, and is really requesting that schools really try to have their own programs, and a swimming team and other programs that we co-op in. Not that I'm recommending at this point that we run those programs on our own, but we do have to show if the numbers are there. And those are some big ticket items. To rent a facility with a pool and busing. And again, that's not necessarily shared anymore with.
No. I think that's, you know, in the time that we're in now, and it's hard for people to even put food on their tables, to ask for a 5.5% increase at this point, I think it's a little much.
I respect your opinion. I will tell you on March 18th, that was on the heels of what we all were told to plan for a minimum of 10 days. No one spoke of a elongated distance learning formula that we've been working, and really we are still going to probably remain closed for some time. I don't disagree with you. It is more than asking for some.
Yeah, you know, I will mention it later, but being that you mentioned about the online learning, I really want to compliment all of the teachers. I've seen firsthand the work they're doing, and the administrators, and I've heard about the meetings they've been having, as well as the support staff. I mean, I think, and the students, they have to all be commended. They did an excellent job for a short period of time to learn this new process. They have to be applauded. And as an educator myself, I found it to be overwhelming at times, and I think it's wonderful. And I have to congratulate the staff, the teachers, the administrators, the students, everyone on that. But again, I still think that this is a hard nut to swallow with the 5.5% increase. I'm sorry to say.
I understand. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Jang.
Okay, actually, due to COVID-19, many small businesses are closed for months and worrying about financial difficulties, as Dr. Matarazzo mentioned. So I really concern those taxpayers who cannot pay bare necessity for daily living and try not to burden them with any additional budget increase besides our usual increase of 2%. I believe that when the time is difficult, people need to work together, and it will be really, for me, difficult to ask for $800,000 additional burden for the town people. So, probably I'm going to go for no for our tentative budget tonight, because that was before COVID-19, and since March, the later half of the March, we've been closing the school, and I don't, because right now there's no guarantee that we can open the school back on May 15. It will probably continuously going forward, and for this moment, we cannot really ignore the people who cannot pay for our budget. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Any other board members regarding the actual budget presentation itself?
Sorry, I just have a quick question.
Mr. Yang.
So, I mean, obviously, if for whatever reason it doesn't get passed, you guys briefly talked about how that would affect which areas that we would cut.
Yes.
Is that like a locked-in thing, or is that something we could explore to, I guess, a bit more in detail to figure out if there's other creative ways to do it as well? Or is that kind of like it's just a set thing and that's the only way we're going to be able to do it?
No. So, Mr. Yang, to answer your question, about 2 months ago, maybe even sooner, the budget is started a long time ago. I would say once January 1 rolls around, we turn our budget calendar, because as you know, as an administrator, we begin on July 1. But with that being said, we did not know about the adjustment of enrollment aid 2 months ago, 3 months ago. With that being said, we had a plan, and then we were almost given a life preserver document state in that no positions would potentially be affected. Are there alternatives? That's the job of us, of the board and the business office and the superintendent's office. We, if the event tonight is not necessarily an approval of our budget, then you know what? We roll up our sleeves and we do everything in our power. We go back to the mayor and council and request if there is any other type of shared service that we can enter with them. I've had some great conversations with the mayor, as a former, I think he clearly wants what's best for our schools. And with that being said, we all have to work together. So canceling the event tonight is not an affirmative vote on the budget. Tomorrow morning, different areas in personnel, in finance, in curriculum, we all have to roll up our sleeves. And see what areas.
But just if I can interject on one point, and it was one of the highlighted bolded comments on our next step slide. It's important that if we are making changes to revenue and the appropriations, where we're going to, right, it's the enrollment adjustment that's in question. We need to discuss those changes during this meeting. We cannot have discussions between now and the next time we meet to adopt a budget, if in fact this one is not approved.
Well, we may have to have a special meeting, again, dealing with the budget.
No, the second meeting, Tom, the next meeting, if the budget as it stands currently is not approved this evening, we need to decide where we're going to be making the changes. The next meeting is just to adopt a
Right, we may
revised
have a
budget.
special meeting between now and that next meeting.
Right, but no
You know,
additional
I think we
discussions
have to
on the
look
budget
at
can
the
occur after
current
this evening. We need to discuss how we want to change the revenue and appropriation.
Right. Again, that'll have to be a special meeting to do that, and if possible, if you could please print me out a hard copy so I can scrutinize it, I'll pick it up. I'll come get it myself.
I'm sorry, and I just want to make sure it's clarified. Maybe I misheard.
Sure.
But so if this does not get approved, we need to decide tonight. So I mean, I think Tom was trying to say like we can have another meeting before we have to adopt it.
No,
But it has to be
Yeah.
tonight. You're saying that we gotta figure it out.
Can't figure
at
that
the
out.
budget hearing, we need to talk about where we want to make these changes, not down to, again, we're not talking
Personnel or curriculum, but what areas?
areas.
See, I need a hard
Areas,
copy,
that's
I'm
correct.
sorry, I need a hard copy of that, budget, to be able to go through it, and I can't do it now.
We may need a special meeting
Yes.
among board members. Decide, and I think Angela and Rillo.
But we do not have statutory authority to do that.
We don't have authority.
Budget hearing is this evening.
Well, I think we're gonna have to call a special meeting, that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I think.
Ben, you would know, are we not allowed to have a special meeting?
You know, I will look into it more, but I am told, that this is the meeting in which we have to make the budgetary decisions. The next meeting is the meeting in which to approve those decisions.
Right, but
There's
again,
no discussions in between,
I'm sorry?
and there's
Well,
no.
again, if it deals with personnel,